you are in the position to roll out self-service analytics, and we already started it at Lanxess and are already since 1 year doing it. I try to give you some practical insights on how we did it and why we did it that way. So I hope that helps you and gives you some value and some inspiration for your own programs there. So yeah, that is what how I try to do it today. Mainly quick introduction about Lanxess. Then I'd like to set the scene, set the table, move into the digitalization journey of why we did stuff. Also discuss a bit how we see self-service and data science, because it's usually quite a belief question within the domains. And talk a bit about the rollout, scalable workflows, and maybe there's some questions, so I'd like to answer them. Yeah, so a bit about Lanxess. We are a specialty chemicals company, and we are currently sharpening our focus more and more towards specialty chemicals to become more resilient and basically have a more balanced portfolio. But where our history comes from is we are a spin-off from Beyer in 2004. So that means, on concluding that, is that we have a lot of different plants. So we don't have those. We also have some big continuous plants where we have a lot of different plants. So all the 60 production sites, they produce something different. And this also has a big impact on the digitalization strategy, because we don't very well scale on a particular problem, and then we can scale it across because we have thousands of the same assets, like in oil and gas maybe. So this is very interesting. Keep that in mind for later on. So everything starts with a mission statement, I would say. So our CEO said, yeah, Lanxess wants to become the digital leader in the chemical industry. So he really found it very important for Lanxess' future to put digital at the backbone of the company, which, yeah, of course, sits on 3 pillars. One is technology. So we are always evaluating everything under the guideline of embracing new technology and digital transformation, which is very open to very important to have an open mind, to be open towards technology. But of course, at the center are the people. People need to kind of carry out what you're thinking about and what you strategize. So it's all about the empowerment of the people to basically be day-to-day data-driven. And this is important, as also previous speakers have mentioned. It's also at the center. And of course, going towards the customers. Thomas, you also have mentioned new business models. Just being very transparent towards the customer, because they in the end buy the products and they have needs in the digital age. So satisfying those needs is very, very important for us. So if we dive a bit deeper, how does our digital backbone look like on a high height? What are we doing? So we have digital across the whole value chain, starting from R&D, where we try to increase the level of innovation. How do we do it? We try to leverage artificial intelligence for new product development in the lab, but also for some production optimization in a sense of doing a new recipe. Then we have it in a supply chain, connecting supply chain with the suppliers and the customers, where you try to predict whether a shipment is in time, those kind of things, and having it quite a supply chain, for example, from our, we have a bromine now, so from a bromine to the customer and making it completely transparent. And marketing and sales develop new go-to-market approaches. We have launched a digital marketplace, a digital B2B marketplace called Chemondis, where, not just Lanxess, but everyone can sell his goods. And this is a new way to go to the market, not to the classical sales channels. And in the middle of everything, we have a central data platform, a data lake, so that we can break those data silos and basically enable cross-functional projects. Like if I want to do some supply chain, but I need data from production planning, and I might need data from marketing and sales. So this needs to be broken up, those silos, and that's what we try to do. Of course, it all sits on digital mindset and new work. So really, really try to change the mindset of the people, try to bring new work possibilities, new way of collaboration to the people, which is, of course, the foundation for any transformation, any organizational change, as we also have learned yesterday. And if we dive more deeper into production, How does it look there? So we have something we call enablers. So this is the foundation of this digitalization journey in the production. At the center are data storages and something like OSIsoft, which is for every plant in Lanxess a standard historian. We have the data lake solution. It's a Palantir, and we really develop like RFID tags, a standard for that, QR codes, standardized SAP interfaces to ERP systems, and of course in plant decumation, those kind of things, which are the foundation for everything. Without those things, nothing will work. And we have 3 pillars that sit on the foundation. So one is the shop floor applications, where it's all about the digital worker, where you want to digitize workflows, everything that starts from the truck entering the production to the truck leaving the production. Digital inventories, you have digitized checklist of plant operation and plant maintenance. So I'm repairing a pump or a truck is coming in, I'm checking that. And of course I want to have mobile access to plant data, so I need to have the device. And I want to just check an RFID code, for example, and then I get all the documentation right there. So this is something that we envision and that is currently starting to happen. And of course, we have then the asset lifecycle management to enable all of that. So digital engineering, having everything ready. If you change something in the PNID, you want it to be changed in every documentation, or the safety documentation. You want it to be all available digitally, and that is something that we do in asset lifecycle management. Then a very important pillar for us for optimization is the process and asset applications. So we can divide it kind of 2 things. So one is performance monitoring, seeing what is our plant doing currently, what is it doing now, and with respect to our KPIs. So we use PyVision and PyAsset frames very heavily and rolling it out across all the plants to have individualized dashboards for the operators, but also data-driven optimization projects where we have data science and self-service analytics, so TrendMiner and Palantir as the platform. So we jump into that a bit. What is our value chain here? So now I go again 1 level deeper in the strategy. So we start with data generation. You all have those systems, process control systems and LIMS systems. We go towards data aggregation. So that's where our historian systems come in and make the data available to everyone, which is very, very important. And we go then to data analytics. So where we can not just store the data, but we want to give it a structure to asset frames and event frames to save those important process informations. But we also want to do KPI calculation on that level. We want to do condition monitoring, which is very powerful for us. And then go towards self-service data analytics, which is part of that portfolio, to optimize, to enable the people to optimize the production themselves. And we have a Palantir Foundry, which is our central data platform where you can do those data science projects we talked about. And of course, everything is visualized mainly with PyVision for us at the plant side. Everything is visualized there in the operating room to close the improvement cycle, to not just let it be an empty project. And we have already touched upon data science and self-service analytics, and we did a lot of tests and a lot of projects, and this is what came out of it for us on a high level in those 2 areas. So where to use what? Self-service data analytics, all those problems for us where domain knowledge is necessary or is significantly outweighing the data science knowledge necessary to solve the problem. For us, that's actually the majority of the problems because it's very seldomly so that you need a very advanced artificial intelligence algorithm to solve a problem in production. So that for us, we concluded from different prototypes and tries that this is very, very the major stake in our project portfolio that we have. And it's all about the enablement of the domain experts because, if we go in and do a project, we might be chemical engineers, but still you need to have the specific knowledge about the plant, about how stuff is going in production. Otherwise, you cannot solve the project. So it's about the enablement. Then you want to develop those people towards a more proactive plant operation. So that was a central point for us for self-service, for them to just be yeah, more on top of everything, because we heard all the complaints that we have no time, we are running behind those problems, and this was for us in the prototypes very, very important point for self-service analytics. And typical use cases are that we support also with this debottlenecking, golden batch, asset reliability. Those kind of use cases, you need to know the production plant, you need to know the reaction, you need to know the asset and the context of the asset. So this is very important, and all those points come together in those projects. If you go to the data science approach, this is where you start needing some data science knowledge, some data engineering knowledge. You want to classify data, you need to compare different classes of data, you need to give an algorithm there and maybe go beyond some regression. And this is where a data science approach comes in. Since there are not so many of those projects, but there are still a lot of them compared to the team size you can build, because you have very complex project teams and long project timelines. Such a project is not a one-week thing. It takes months. You need to have a big project beginning phase where you really want to take a look in how the production is going. You have the various different roles in the project team. So it's really important to have a correct project qualification criteria. We always, when data science projects are done, they need to meet a specific matrix, which is evaluated by our data science team. And it's basically based on business value, scalability, and their resource availability. So it needs to be a very valuable project. Otherwise, it will be a non-profitable project because of those 2 points on the top. It needs to be scalable to increase the value and to really be brought through Lanxess. And then the resources need to be available also from a production side, because it's a commitment. I've currently done such a project, and you meet, I think in the beginning, once every week. You need that commitment also from the production side. And that's why you focus basically on high-value cases where data model is needed. And what is typical? Predictive quality, where you have maybe more complex relationships in the quality prediction. A critical asset reliability, where the self-service part is not cutting it, and where you really need to dive into a very specific model. Or for something like recipe optimization of your production, which I already touched upon, which is being done with those kind of methods. And what are key success factors if you want to do a self-service project or a data science project? For self-service, it's reasonable complexity of parameter relationships. As we have seen, we do stuff on scale, but that is not possible if you do a very complex algorithm. So if you have quadratic relationships, if you have really crazy things in there, it's way too complex for such a project to work robustly. You need to have variation in process data. Where there's no variation, data-driven methods will not work. So that is a very important point. You need to have data availability. So we just start a project where there is the correct Pi infrastructure, where you have the lab data available. If this is not done, then we cannot start a project. You need to have the project process expertise. So the people from the plant need to be involved, and you need also structural enablement by the plant to conduct the analysis. So you need the resources there as well, and you need the commitment. In the data science part, it's a lot about expectation management. People expect you push a button and stuff comes out, and money flows out basically. You have a magic wand, and data wizards are coming in, and everything money is just flowing, and this is not true. This is actually hard work, and so that is why you need to manage expectations, very, very important, because otherwise you might run into trouble. You also need to have variation in your process data. You need to have the process experts involved, and you need a very, very detailed project definition phase. Because if you don't have that, you don't select the right methods, and somewhere in the middle you see, I've run myself in the corner, I need to start all over again, leaving a lot of frustrated participants behind, which is not so nice. And if now we decided self-service analytics is very important, we know the success factors of it. If you want to roll it out globally, what are the challenges that we've met, that maybe you also have met, and how did we solve them? What were our success factors? So one very, very big challenge was to prove the initial value. Once you've done a prototype, that's nice. Your management knows the value. But you need to convince every plant again, every business unit again, because everyone wants to see for himself. So that is a very, very tough challenge, actually, because this requires a lot of work. Then need to make TrendMiner self-service on a global scale. That means not just the one person that is very good with data from this plant, which you picked for a prototype, but you need to make it available for everyone. Data literacy comes into place here. You need to make it available for those people that even are not so familiar with data. You need to change the behavior and the perception, which is very important because production data might not be the number one thing that people are using to solve problems on the plant. It might be an afterthought, and this needs to be changed, which is very, very hard. And you need to take common decisions on a global level. So if you do something, you need to iterate. And if you need to do it with every business itself in separate kind of sessions, then this will become very hard to take a common decision to the right direction. What were our success factors in solving that? So one, we have a central project. So it's all from a central budget. It's a centrally set up project, which is basically a very low entry point for the businesses. So the businesses can just start. That's it. They just need to invest their time. Then we have a dedicated rollout management team together with engineering, with my colleague Sebastian, who is later in the panel discussion sharing his insights. And this is really about production data analytics expertise. So it's not the data science, but the chemical engineers who are data savvy that should be doing this, because they connect both worlds and they go to the plant and they understand the concerns. And that's very, very important. Then we have something that is called Digital Working Group Production, which was installed and which is kind of our steering committee. So it means taking global decisions is very easy for us now because we have once a quarter a meeting where our CTO is basically there and all the production managers globally from the business units, and we can just very agile, in an agile way take a decision without going to every business and asking for it. So that is very, very important and was very also important for the speed that we could do the rollout. And in order to basically take the businesses with us, we created individual success plans with every BU with clear roles and resource commitments. So we created a journey for every BU based on their needs and based on their personal availability, so that it's actually a chance for it to succeed. Because if you don't do that, just one size fits it all, people will get alienated. And we are currently also building a global process and asset analytics community. So something like this, a user event will happen actually within Lanxess for everything that is related to process and asset analytics, to get some peer recognition, to get a sense of community and to feel part of something, because some people might be alone in the plant and might be fighting the good fight basically alone because they get no recognition here. And now that hopefully you see yourself in the challenges and maybe those tips were helpful, what is the journey of our customer, which is the businesses, because we are just a service to our businesses? How is the journey or an exemplary journey of our inner customer? So when we've decided, or when they decided, oh, we want TrendMiner, we want self-service analytics, we say that's very good. We start with a BU or BL, depends on how big it is, a kickoff. We establish a firm rollout structure, a firm commitment, determine clear roles and priorities. So what we want is the P&T head, is our global production management from the BU or BL, and we want a single point of contact. Because we need someone on the other side bringing all the information together, being involved with the people on a day-to-day basis. This is very, very important. Then we move towards a plant kickoff, where we basically have determined an overall strategy, and we go to the plants and reiterate the strategy to their liking, and also setting expectations, scheduling, not that a lot of activities are running at the same plant at the same time, and you start something, you give a lot of time for it, and you basically can start over again because they never had the time in doing that. And then it's about enablement. We do a lot of on-site trainings together with our colleagues from TrendMiner, with the hands-on session and the workshops, to deliver the value to the plant and to maybe convince the people again that this is a good solution, because they want to see for themselves. We regularly sync with the single point of contact on reiterating the structure. Maybe something was not good from the get-go. And we also discuss projects that we can support that are a bit too challenging in the beginning for the people. And then basically from that project support and what we learned, again, give the insights to the organizations with dedicated trainings so that they know how we did it and that they can apply it themselves. And we have structural enablement from the BU, which I come to in detail in the next slide. And we have the community meetings, which we also have regularly, so that they can exchange ideas. So this is the journey, basically, that an inside customer takes, that should bring him towards using TrendMiner regularly, using self-service analytics regularly at the plant. But I already emphasized, we need a commitment from the BU. The people need to be enabled in a structural way to practice self-service analytics, because if you just put it as a 10th priority on top of the other 9 priorities, this will not work. So you waste a lot of money, you waste a lot of time of the people, and they will not pick it up. They will just make the trainings, go to the trainings, say it's a great solution, but at some point when you ask them, hey, why didn't you use it? Yeah, my plant manager didn't think it was very necessary, I have different goals. So what you need to do is you need to align with the BU and actually ask some commitment there for it to work. So we have something like this, which BU is actually doing, and this is grounded on a working group setup. So it's a good mixture between mandatory and mandatory and out of free will, voluntary. So mandatory are the plant managers, because they need to set the priority for the production. They know best. They know best what use cases to tackle, and they set the priority for their engineers. And of course, the engineers should be there, and what we call a Meister, which is a plant foreman. They usually know everything about the plant, so they also should be there. And of course, shift people can come voluntarily, that based on interest. But this working group setup is done bi-weekly, and they tackle not just TrendMiner cases, but everything in production. And they support each other, they have a regular structure to it, and they have clear goals. And this is very, very, very important, and they also need to report on the status of their progress. So it's not just they meet up and have a lunch and a coffee, and then they go back, but they actually need to report on the status, they need to follow some goals, and that makes it more tangible and accountable for them. Then we offered TrendMiner deep dives. That means 3 to 4 times a year we go on site, and together with those people from those working groups, we try to unblock their cases if there are questions. We try to show new things that are in TrendMiner that are able. We try to foster best practices and put it on a SharePoint that we are building. So we really try to keep that going and to deblock roadblocks along the way. And a very important part, and was stressed, this is a lot of extra work for those people, so it needs to be appreciated. So there should be a yearly reward per working group, because a lot of them do it extra, even though it's priority, but they do it sometimes after 5. So that needs to be appreciated, and they need to also have a chance to show themselves. So they present at the global management team meeting. So if they have solved something, similar to what Pascal van Lith was saying, that there is an award or something, it's appreciation, it's a chance to show yourself. So this is very, very important, because then it's also in the mind of the people that it's not something they do for nothing, but it's actually a very, very high priority, and they are part of a successful Lanxess, and that's very important. We come to something that I call scalable workflows, because why does it work so well in such a diverse environment? TrendMiner doesn't scale in some specific problem set, but it scales on its workflows. So this is something that you can do in any batch situation, actually, in order to solve a batch optimization problem. And this is a workflow that we have done already multiple times and really achieved nice results with it. So basically starting with filtering out batches that are not representative, that any one of you can do something that needs to be done. It's like the DMIC phase, define the right data. Then you go overlaying batches with specific conditions. So for example, all the batches that are reproducible in the shortest ones, if you want to optimize cycle times. You can fingerprint the cleaned batches. So you say, this is my optimal shortest batch that is representative for, with respect to my specific process knowledge. And you can use this fingerprint and use the batch recommendation against a lot of layers that are representing bad batches. So for example, long cycle times where nothing out of the ordinary was happening. You can do, so basically everyone from the plant, it's a very easy workflow, can do this. Just hit the recommendation button and then you get the suggestions. And in the end, you get 3, 4, 5 suggestions. You sit in a room together, you discuss, you let everyone's knowledge flow in. And you check for global correlations between KPIs. So you, again, if you check it for 20 batches, you need to maybe check it for 500, 600, 700 batches in order to be really sure that it's actually that it's a correlation to your KPI, that it's true. And then you're done, basically. And this is how we are. We solved already a couple of batch use cases where you really, really can use this simple workflow. And I also tell this to the people from the plant. Where is no wizardry coming in. There's not something that I can do special that they cannot. It is basically a self-service workflow that everyone could use in scale. Doesn't matter what he produces. So just to show you a bit of how we use TrendMiner in those kind of working group sessions and in the projects. What is the outlook for us? So next steps to scale. Main focus points is work with TrendMiner together towards scalability of these workflows, because sometimes in those workflows, to be honest, we need to go out of TrendMiner, and this is the feedback we give. But we work together towards a great scalability of those workflows, that we can just say, do this like that. If you want to solve a batch problem, and this will work every time. So this is for us then going to the true self-service in every end-to-end workflow. Then we have a strong integration with the asset frames rollout. So what is very important for us is that TrendMiner is together with rolled out with the asset frames, so that it's actually utilizing the process performance monitoring hook, that something OEE goes wrong or some batch goes wrong, that immediately the people start going into TrendMiner to analyze what is going wrong. This is really, really, really important for us, because this asset frames and PyVision will be everywhere in our plants. Then we have building the SharePoint to share best practices. So we have an internal platform where we want people to contribute and share their best practices and learn on their own pace how we at Lanxess utilize TrendMiner on scale. Then we want to continue with dedicated on-site training. So as we said, now go away from the more general training also to say, okay, we've done a project, and this is how we've done it, and make more individualized training sessions together with TrendMiner to get the people going more and get them more motivated. Hold regular community events to foster the community, and continue the use case support on request, which is very important if someone feels that he has the need of central support, and we can then derive some new best practices from it. And the goal, the mission statement for us now is to establish TrendMiner as a true self-service analytics solution within Lanxess, not just for the data savvy, but for everyone that is in contact with production data. Yeah, so I hope I could give you some practical insights and maybe some inspirational points of food for thought for your own rollouts, and that you could utilize it and take it back to your organizations.